I'm going to go ahead and kick us off here. Hello, I'm Kelly Murray with the Consortium for Service Innovation. Welcome. Thanks for being here. I'm joined by my fellow staff members, Christina and Sarah and Matt and Jennifer. This is almost all of our 6-person staff. So it's always fun for all of us to get caught up with what's happening in the community and to see all of you. The consortium is a not-for-profit organization. We exist thanks to the support of our approximately 70 member companies. And together, mostly what we work on is how to make work easier, which has turned into the consortium staff and members together as the caretakers of the KCS methodology, along with other models like intelligent swarming and the new AI blueprint. And one example of the way that the consortium gets work done is last week's presentation on the new process alignment review, which replaces the process adherence review in KCS v6. This new version makes PAR, that's what we call it, easier to assess, easier to understand, and easier to act on, which seems like 3 great things to make things easier about. It came about because members got together to talk about what was working and what wasn't, and how it could be better. So we're pretty excited to release that. I think Jennifer's going to drop a link to that resource in the chat, so we hope you'll try it out and tell us what you think. In addition, while we're dropping links in the chat, in a minute, you'll see a link to next month's KCS in Action call, which is being presented by Top Desk. Florian Haas, who's the support manager, brings a really interesting perspective as somebody who started in another part of the organization and didn't see the value of KCS until he became a support manager and thought, oh, we really should stop solving the same problems over and over. We really should maybe capture and structure and reuse them. So that, I'm very excited to hear his story. Today, I'm so pleased to introduce Heather Ausmus, who's the program manager for KCS at Twilio. Twilio has been a consortium member, I think, for about a year now. Heather presented a version of this at the annual summit in March in Atlanta, and we really wanted to capture it for reuse. So she has graciously come to do it again with a handful of updates on things that have happened since then. We are anticipating time for Q&A at the end, but in the meantime, you're very much encouraged to put questions and comments in the chat. And we are recording this event, so you'll receive an email with the recording in the next day or 2. And with all of that, any other announcements or anything housekeeping items? All right, Heather, I think we're ready for you to take it away.
Okay, cool. Okay. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. Heather Ausmus, Program Manager at Twilio. I lead the KCS program. So I'm here to share a little bit of how we launched that program or reintroduced that program. I've been at Twilio a little over a year and a half, but I have about 14 years of experience in program management and online communities, KCS, self-service portals. So it's one of my favorite things to talk about. A few things that we'll go over is just the Twilio, a little bit about Twilio, the history of KCS at Twilio, analysis of the program, how we revitalized the program and implemented it, the state of KCS at Twilio today, our roadmap, and then the Q&A. So a little bit about Twilio. You probably know us as the text messaging company that pioneered cloud communication, but today we do a lot more. So the areas of products that we have are based on communications like messaging, SMS, WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, voice, video, and email. We also have a customer data platform, so it's a Twilio segment. And then we also have solutions such as Authy, which is verification, and then also lookup. One of the things the next thing that I wanted to go over is the history of KCS at Twilio, the how and the why. So a little background, KCS was first introduced at Twilio with a pilot in 2020. It then was expanded the following year. And then there was a mini project to improve and optimize the program. Between that time, it was really treated as a project. So we introduced it, and then it was like, okay, do it. We didn't really have any nurturing of the program at all. There was some communications, but that was about it. And then I was brought onto the team to lead the program. So we did a kickoff of a KCS 3.0 project after I did some analysis and talked to some peers and users that are part of the program. And then since rolling out KCS 3.0, we do treat it as a program. So we have a roadmap, we have a backlog, we do have the KCS Council, and I'll share a little bit more about what that looks like. But this is the kind of the things that we've been focusing on since rolling out the new program. When I did the program assessment, I just looked at all the data that I could find, and I talked to a whole bunch of people. What some of the things that really stood out and why we recommended a KCS 3.0 initiative to kind of build the foundation of KCS, the program, was that we did an audit of our top 200 most viewed articles. And it was clear that we weren't following a template. There were templates in the system. We used Zendesk Guide, but no one was consistently using the template. So article styles were across the board. We had articles with funny GIFs that were not very appropriate to have in the articles, right? Like there just wasn't some checks and balances. Broken links. So our content standard score is a 68. So we had some room for improvement there. We also did see that we had 2 years in a row a 9% decline in articles being created. And then we had some acquisitions in that time frame. So we had new products, new challenges, new issues that were coming up, and they just were not being documented. And then when we looked at all the roles for the program, 95% of roles were focused on publishing. So we didn't have anyone with the coaching and guiding and encouraging users to follow KCS, how to write an article, etc. Our engagement rate was, which is Zendesk metric. If you use Zendesk, you've probably seen it in their app, where you look at the number of links, right, the comments and the creations, and it gives you an engagement score. But 99% of the activity was linking, like less than 1%, like minimal was like creating and commenting. So we weren't doing all the behaviors. And then we weren't actually linking that much. If you look at our closed linkage rate, it was only 21%. So a lot of the teams were not consistently using the knowledge base to see if a solution was available or information. So there's a lot of rework happening. And then this is the last one. There's 100% confusion on our program name. So some people called it KCS, some people called it KCA, which if you use Zendesk is the knowledge capture app. And beginning of conversations, more often than not, people would say, well, KCS, I mean KCA, and because they didn't know what to call it, because the term was used interchangeably, both of them, and training and documentation. So that was one thing that definitely needed to be fixed, because if we didn't know what it was, we had what to call it, we definitely don't know why we're doing it or what we need to do it. So this goes into like our KCS implementation for KCS 3.0, what we did, and then who was involved. So our priorities for KCS 3.0 were 4. Strategy, so alignment and ownership across the teams, and it was primarily looking at the support team that was using it the most. Leadership and getting buy-in and advocacy from the important roles that would help guide the support engineers. The people, the support engineers, empowering and driving best habits for them. And then the last was the technology to automate and simplify where we could. The first 3 were the most important. Technology can come later, right? Like we want to make sure that people understand it before we help automate it. But in strategy, what we did is we did introduce a KCS Council. So we have an executive sponsor for the program. She's fantastic. She was actually at the annual summit. So it was great that she and some other leaders of our support team were able to attend and learn more about KCS and intelligent swarming. We also wanted to include all levels of customer support and providing feedback. So that support engineers, our team and tech leads, we wanted to include managers, everyone involved. So they had some input in building and designing it. And then we also wanted to rebrand the program, come up with an official name. And then the other thing is alignment on the name, but also I had this fear that when we rolled out the new program, people would see KCS and say, oh, I know what that is. I don't need to worry about that. Like I won't pay attention. So we wanted to come up with a new strategic name that would get attention and get people to listen a little bit more, read a little bit more, open the email. So we'll share a little bit more about that. In leadership, we wanted to get support manager buy-in. So we had a roadshow where we had, I think, 14 or more meetings with our managers across all teams to share what our plans were, get feedback, answer questions, get their support, and encouraging their teams and motivating their teams. We did introduce playbooks and resources for them. And then we also wanted to align on measurable goals so that they knew what the goals were, or like what metrics were available and what they meant when they talked about it with their teams. In people, we wanted to better define roles and responsibilities. And I do have a little bit more on this, and expand it beyond publishing, right? Because that's only one aspect of KCS. We wanted to refresh the training and resources. All of the training that we had was just about the app usage. It didn't provide any background on the why we're using the app and why we should be using it, and how you can incorporate in it. So we did revise that. And then a comms plan. So if we're not talking about it consistently and it's not top of mind, people forget about it. They'll focus on other initiatives or things that come up. So we wanted to develop a communication plan to support an evergreen comms plan to keep it top of mind. And also give information to managers so they could help talk about it in their meetings as well. And then the last is technology. I wanted to update the templates that were in our system and make it easier for our users to choose the right template. We wanted to automate the creation of articles. You can see the X, that did not happen. So that's still a work in progress. And it's okay, but hopefully we'll have some automation to have like write the first draft, or even help guide the user and remind them to create an article. We wanted to introduce a content standard checklist. I have a yellow check because what we wanted to do was have it in Zendesk Guide. So when you're looking at an article, like the content standard checklist is there. I previously used Salesforce and they used to have that, and it was wonderful. So I'd love to see that in Zendesk soon. But we do have it. It's an Airtable. So we do have a form. We do have a dashboard where we're tracking all this information. It's just not quite as integrated and available in the knowledge base as I'd like it to be. And then last, we had multiple places where there was feedback and information on how to improve articles, how to improve the program. So what we did is we aligned for all of that feedback together and built a roadmap, a backlog of all of those requests so that anyone could go in at one point and see what we're working on, what's coming up, and then what's in the we may be prioritizing in the past and in the future. So those are the 4 areas. Wanted to share a little bit more on some of them. One, for the rebranding, we ended up calling it Knowledge Exchange with the tagline, Write It, Share It. We outlined our missions, which is to nurture knowledge sharing through collective ownership and collaboration, and then integrate KCS into day-to-day conversations. We also defined our vision is to help make it easier for customers to work with Twilio by solving a problem once and sharing the solution as quickly as possible through whatever channel, assisted support or self-service channels. And then we have, if you're familiar with Twilio, we have our magic values. Support had their own magic values specifically for support. And one of those was never make a change in silence. It was about, as you work a ticket, you summarize what you did to solve the ticket in an internal note. So if anyone looks at your ticket, right, they know exactly what you've been doing. Or if they have a similar problem, they can find what you did. We wanted to extend that and say, and also create an article with that information. So we just wanted to lean more on the value that's already there and just improve it and expand it. In terms of the team structure, we did change this. So as of this week, there's 2 on our teams, which is exciting. So it's a big week for us at Twilio. We have myself as the program manager, and then we now have a program specialist that will be helping with the coaching program. Which is amazing. So far, it's been going great. She was previously one of our team mentors too. So it's really exciting that we had someone that participated in the program that has will be more involved in it. In terms of our KCS team, in the past in managing KCS programs, getting engagement across all time zones has always been a challenge for me. So one lesson I learned is to try to have assistance, in those across all time zones. So we introduced a regional coach role. So we have one for each region. And then I'm currently namer, but we soon will be transferring that to a team lead that in the namer area region that will be helping supporting our team mentors. Their role is to help be there for the team mentors as they have questions when they work with their mentees, and if they have any needs that they have with articles, that type of thing. They help host monthly meetings to also allow collaboration, talk about how coaching's going, talk about the feedback or the results that we're seeing in terms of PAR. We use RQI, but similar to PAR, and then content standard. So that's their role. And then we have team mentors. So they're coaches, right? But we wanted to have a different name for that. But 80% of them have volunteered. And I'm still getting users on teams that reach out that said, I'm interested in getting involved. And then we've been rotating out, transitioning out. So we have more people filling in the role as mentors. Our goal is to have one per manager, one per support and operations manager. And it's for any team that's customer facing right now. And right now we're approximately at like 60 team mentors across all of our teams. And then we also have the biggest question I've always received when we were rolling out the coaching program was how much time can we anticipate, for a team of people to have. So we did a projection for that and clearly outlined how much time they'd be spending. And so we also map it by mentees and anticipated time they need to support them. And we're averaging about 5% of time for team mentors to spend on KCS. And then we have upwards of 9% to prepare their managers that there may be, it ebbs and flows of what the team needs. Then we have all of our contributors. Publishers are those that are involved in the publishing process, and then domain experts. We're not quite in the evolve loop with KDEA quite yet, but we will be. We're working on plans to do that. But our domain experts right now all have publishing rights. And then as we roll that out, we hope to bring them into the program a little bit more. And then we have our stakeholder groups that we regularly meet with and partner with. The KCS leads, that was here before I started at Twilio, and it was really representatives across the product teams, a lot of tech leads and team leads that were involved. We've evolved that to make sure that we have representation from all of our product support teams. And then we're also kind of revitalizing that to have a balance of team leads and tech leads. We're working on what their roles and responsibilities are. The other thing that we did is we invested a lot in supporting the coaching aspect of it. So this is a lot of the resources and processes that we implemented. So it's great now we're going to have a program specialist that will help deliver on this a little bit better than I have being over the whole program. But these are some of the aspects that we have. One new one since the annual summit is that we've realized that some of the information was all over the place. And then after speaking with someone at the summit, how they used a form to collect information, how the mentoring sessions, the coaching sessions went. We started using Slack Canvas, knowing that Slack is a main communication channel. We always have it up. Everyone's in Slack. And so in our coaching channel, we introduced a Canvas. And so it has all the information that they need to support the coaching, all the links that they would need, potential questions they could ask there in the session, right? And then we also introduced a workflow that has the form so that as they complete the session, they can take notes, indicate whether this person is ready to be a publisher or not. And then the responses go to the coach. And then we also receive the responses so that we can work with them to make that contributor a publisher once it's ready, and that type of thing. So a state of where we are, when and where we're going. So some of the results that we've seen, I did update some of them since the summit, but in terms of our RQI, it's at 75%. It was previously at 63%. So we are seeing more people doing the right things and showing more adoption of KCS. And our coaches are being still really great and incorporating that as to their mentoring sessions. And they've been guided as they onboard new contributors or as they talk with their contributors to bring up tickets and talk about how they incorporated searching, linking, commenting, and creating. The other is we have 173% increase in article comments. So that goal of collective ownership, right, of when you use knowledge, flag it if it needs to be improved. We are seeing more of that happen from users. It ebbs and flows, of course, and we do have a maintenance plan where we review quarterly our top reused articles to make sure that they're accurate and relevant. So those are being used, they're pretty like on point that they won't have comments, but for those other articles, we are seeing comments come in through those. And then our publishers have been great. We introduced JIRA into the process, so that as we get comments, we open a JIRA and then our publishers review it. And they've been pretty quickly addressing the feedback. On most teams, I'll say on most teams. There's some teams that are busier, that not as much. The other is that one of our goals is that there is this perception across the organization, because there wasn't a lot of data and no one was communicating it, leading it, that we weren't really maintaining our knowledge base. And that wasn't actually true. We were pretty good about maintaining it. But we wanted to make a big push on going through and making sure that we reviewed all the knowledge base articles and verified them before we've officially wrapped up KCS 3.0. And 93% of our articles were verified. So we had SMEs review the articles, see if they were relevant or accurate, verify them if they were edit as needed, and then archive. So that helped get rid of that noise that I kept hearing in meetings about accuracy and the truth of our knowledge base. And then we are seeing an improvement in how we're regularly editing articles. So 28% more articles are edited per month. So teams and SMEs and also our publishers are getting better at reviewing and editing articles too. And then additionally, it was 500 plus articles. We have I would say smaller. I've been in organizations with 20,000, like our 20,000 articles in a knowledge base. We're a little bit smaller and only like a few thousand articles as of right now, but more than 500 articles have been edited to improve article quality, meaning we looked at our top reused articles and aligned them with our new article templates. So then now, as articles are flagged for improvement, with comments, if we notice it's not in our new templates, we will edit the article to put it in the new template and then send it to a publisher to address the product feedback. And then for KCS activity hours, we've had over 300 hours logged for coaching. That's up 100% from when we had the annual summit. We still have some consistency to improve here. Not all of our coaches are tracking their hours in Calabrio, our workforce management tool. And then some teams that we're onboarding are not using that. So the form will probably be the way we measure it going forward, but we're driving that change right now. And then one thing before I go into the roadmap is one thing I did is to try to communicate through our roadmap where we are is the stages or phases of KCS. One was building the foundation. So that's kind of the KCS 3.0 that we implemented. Next is to build momentum. So we're kind of going into the building momentum, but there's still a little work to be done on the foundation. And then moving forward, thinking going into next year, we'll scale and sustain. So it's helped with leadership, right, and other stakeholders as we talk about why aren't we doing something. It helps show that this is what we need to do before we get there. And it also helps me as I plan the roadmap to say, does this fit here, or is that more scale and sustaining? And then maybe I can plan for it in the future. But some of the things that are the big major things on our roadmap are KCS engagement in waves. I know the consortium calls it adoption in waves because engagement has a term used more at Twilio. We used engagement. And then because the program was already rolled out to everyone, it's a little after we've rolled it out. But what we've done is quarterly, we pick 3 to 4 teams to work with. And then we primarily work with the managers and team leads and our tech leads that are publishing, just to help them understand a little bit more on the why, what the knowledge exchange is, why KCS, how we do it, and how their team's involved in that process. And then a little bit more of how they can support their teams and help their teams. We finished wave 1 and we did a survey after to ask feedback on the content, the flow of the content. And 100% of the participants in that survey said that they have a better understanding of the KCS and their role in advocating for the adoption of KCS activities. It was a 40% response rate, so it wasn't everyone, but I'm pretty happy with those results and hearing from those that did respond. This quarter, next month, we're kicking it off with 3 more teams. And then in Q4, will be our 3rd wave, and it'll be the rest of the teams for our support. We'll probably have a 4th wave just because we have some new teams coming in and we're onboarding some new teams. So they may come into Q1 next year for our wave 4. But it's been great. We host APAC EMEA sessions, so I can connect with the managers and leaders in those time zones. And then we have NAMER and LATAM sessions, so I can get speak to those participants. And we group them by teams so that we can have conversations if any feedback comes up on specific to their products and their workflows. But it's been nice getting to connect with a lot more managers than I have previously. The other one is more related to AI. So CX Flywheel is how we review our AI chatbots and our co-pilots that are implemented and how content's being used and that there's opportunity to improve content. And that's ongoing. So that will continue to happen. But the first thing we did was improve the data that we were capturing and then have better ways to measure the effectiveness of content. This does also go beyond a little bit than KCS because I'm on the operations team and that's part of all of our AI solutions. A lot of them internally are coming from operations. I'm kind of the content person overall. I primarily focus on knowledge-based articles, but I do have partners for like documentation or website, et cetera, that I do try to bring in so they can use this data to improve their content too. And then the last one is measuring outcomes. We're a little behind on this one. We had some other things that came up once we had this on our agenda. We found out that how we have our site set up, we weren't tracking one of our URLs for links, and that was more important to fix because our engagement rate was off. So what we pushed this back a little bit. So coming up, what we want to do is spend time to better understand the tickets and what should be counted in KCS because our time to solve and a customer effort in CSAT, when you look at it just now, it's kind of the opposite of what we want to see. So I think there's some data that we need to improve, more understanding of how we categorize tickets and what should be included and what KCS could like self-service or solutions could be documented. So this is upcoming. And then we also are extending, as I mentioned, KCS to new teams. So we have a new product team that's being onboarded into a product support team that's being brought into the support team. So they do KCS a unique way. So they're being more looped into how we use KCS. And then I want to learn from their best practices and see if we can incorporate it there. More of our operations team is being involved. So the first team, we're just onboarding their coaches and their managers. And then there's another team after them. So we're approaching their onboarding in waves too, right? So it's a little bit easier that way. We want to better understand the new versus known issues as well. So there's already some conversations starting and how we may be able to do that. And then AI and automation use cases, how can we use what we're doing to help with the knowledge base? Our documentation team has been doing great work. So I'm trying to see how we may be able to leverage what they're doing or partner with them on it. And then looking at the last thing is looking at the knowledge-based self-service user experience. So we want to look at how we can improve self-service for our customers using our help centers and knowledge base. A few things I've learned since the summit is integrating. We still have a lot of work to do to integrate KCS into the support ticket processes. Some teams are more advanced than others, and they're just doing an awesome job. And then others, they've kind of had an increase in tickets of support needs and thus paused it a little bit, and we're kind of working with them and bringing it back. So we have some work to do there. We also found that more teams use other sites, content management systems for their content. So there's probably migrations coming up and helping those teams identify what is process documents that go in one system versus the other. So we're working through that. And then, like I mentioned, for our coaches, tracking that they're completing sessions, taking notes so we understand how things are going, improving the usage of that. But I think the first one is kind of a problem for the last one. So I think if we improve the integration, we'll have more consistency in tracking. And then last, the takeaways that I shared at the summit, which is the same, is definitely have champions. So the KCS leads that I've worked with, because they're more integrated into the support teams, their ideas and feedback on how we can improve things. Like I just got a note on how we could potentially improve how we give direction on something. Like I would never think of that because I'm not in day-to-day working on the support tickets or involved in evaluating those. So they have definitely helped with the program. And they help those teams that are more involved. They have higher engagement and adoption of KCS as well. So connection. So I would say this is for more of our coaches, is that when we have our smaller regional cohorts or regional meetings, it's been better opportunities for them to share what's working and what's not working. So they have more voice in the program. So it's gone really well. We also have practice mentoring sessions where they can help each other practice for mentoring or coaching their team, which has gone really well. I always get great feedback and insights from those too. Data is important. I remember a session I was on earlier where someone was able not to share data on their program. I don't get the luxury of that. Like immediately people are asking for data. I wish I had that. But data for us has been helping a lot in sharing the story and then making it available to everyone. We have found issues with our data. So the issue that we found about the link missing was from a team looking at their data, looking at their tickets and talking about KCS. And then it was like, oh, why didn't I think of that? But those teams that they're using it help a lot. And then last is just to celebrate small wins. Sometimes it's a little bit, you move forward, you celebrate, and you feel like you go backwards a little bit, but it's definitely celebrate all those little movements forward. And that was all I had. So any questions?
Heather, thank you so much. I have a few questions. One of the things that really stuck out to me was back at the beginning in terms of talking about how you gathered information about what was already happening at Twilio. We talk a little bit about opportunity assessments, and it sounds like you did a big one before you launched KCS 3.0. Can you talk a little bit about sort of how much time you invested in doing that before you started going out and making changes to the program?
Yeah, so I started in January, and I think in February I started doing an analysis. And then we proposed the recommendation for starting KCS 3.0 in March. So like in Q2, our Q2, we were ready to just go forward with KCS 3.0. So I think I spent about a month and a half talking to people, looking at the data. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, do you have advice in terms of that process? Were there things that you found to be most helpful?
Um, what would I find? I guess annoy people, keep asking questions. Like there was the teams that help keep the lights on for KCS, like it was part of their job that I regularly reached out. We had regular meetings. Definitely put time on people's calendar to talk about it. People will love to help and they'll love to answer your questions. Um, and then also find all the data sources. For us, we had data everywhere. So finding like just asking people regularly, where's data, and then figuring out how to get access to that data is super important because it was in multiple places for us. And bringing it all together was a bit of a challenge. But I have been in previous roles brought onto teams and to launch new programs. And they're like, oh, we told the executive team it'd be launched next quarter. And I only had like a quarter to like do the MVP. So I kind of have that. I've been through that a few times that helped with this process. Yeah.
It seems like doing some discovery before sort of starting to even make a plan for the next part allows you to do some really thoughtful communication. I heard you talk about how engagement in waves, that's a word that Twilio uses. And so the ability to sort of understand what the language is in the environment and then use that to help people adopt seems like it would be very helpful.
Yeah, finding the terms, like trying not introducing too much new terminology and changing things, because yeah, that's why I went with engagement, because I thought if I said we've already had issues of some apps, their adoption rate and engagement rate, and there's super confusion of like what the difference is between the two. So I've fought really hard and not having an adoption rate and keeping it with engagement rate, because it gets messy when you try to define the two and communicate the difference between the two. In addition, where there's already other features that are having the same, or they're calling the same metrics the same thing, that's already confusing. So yeah, I try to minimize it as much as possible.
Were there other language changes that you made from
Just the
let me,
name.
yeah, keep going.
Yeah, just the overarching the program overall. That's what I really
Yeah,
focused on changing. Yeah.
yeah.
I still hear it a little bit, KCA come up, and then I mostly let it slide, but I hear it less and less. We've been pretty good about knowledge exchange in KCS.
Nice. The other thing that stuck out to me was you were commenting that you were looking forward to starting some Evolve Loop work. But at the same time, it sounds like you're doing a ton of Evolve Loop work in terms of looking at your top used articles and making changes there and have even right the conversation about the way that you discovered that the link wasn't working, the URL wasn't working, was because teams were looking at their data already. So I'm wondering, first of all, I think that we should collectively talk more about what we're learning from the solve loop way earlier in the process, which it sounds like you're already doing. And I'm wondering what other kinds of things you would like to do in the evolve loop that you aren't doing yet.
So the one thing we are not doing yet, and I think I'll officially feel like we are in the Evolve Loop when we do this, is looking at where we have knowledge gaps or like process improvement opportunities. We're not doing that today. Um, we just don't have I don't have the resources right now. So maybe as our new program specialist gets onboarded, there'll maybe a little bit more flexibility to do that. But today I just haven't been able to spend the time and planning to get there. But that is where we want to go. And I think when we do that, I will officially feel that we're there.
Yeah, yeah, great. I'm looking at the other things I scribbled down. Were those all of my questions? Who else has questions? Maybe can you say a few words about RQI? That's resolution quality
It
index? Is
is. I
that,
know it's
yeah.
the like vintage version of
Yeah.
PAR, right? Um, but I was trying to I'll full transparent. PAR confused me a little bit, so I kind of didn't want to start with it, and then after some um, researching it, I decided to go with RQI. And
Yeah.
so I'm really interested. I missed the PAR 2.0. So it's on my list to watch the recording and dive into it, but maybe we will transition to PAR 2.0. But I really wanted to start with like a simple way. We do have the principles, the use it, flag it, or fix it, add it. And the RQI seemed really to balance what we were trying to drive when we were talking about, we call it UFA. And so that's why I went with RQI. And so, well, how we use it is we use it as part of the coaching sessions to have relevant conversations. And we encourage our coaches that when they meet with their, especially newer ones, they ask them to open a ticket. And then they just walk through those questions and ask how they searched and did they link something. Was there an opportunity to improve it? And then they can talk about that, whether there was an opportunity to link, or create. And I think it's helped quite a bit for some teams that they've seen an increase. One, actually our new program specialist with her mentees, she was able to increase their engagement 11% quarter over quarter as she was working with them and consistently talking about it. So I give the coaches flexibility that like, if it doesn't make sense to use that, don't use it, just have a conversation. And then if there's an article ready, they use the content standard checklist.
Nice. I think you're gonna like the new PAR. It sounds
Okay.
like it is designed to be much more in line with what you have described in terms
Okay.
of what kind of process is somebody going through and what kinds of opportunities do they have to engage in solve loop activities. So I'd be interested to hear what you think.
I was going to ask a question about coaching, and fitting that you brought it up that way. We sometimes hear from folks that they have challenges positioning it in terms of getting buy-in from senior leaders for the time and the investment. So can you say more about how that's gone? What has worked well to make that happen?
Yeah, surprisingly, I didn't get a lot of pushback on it at Twilio. And then I proactively, knowing from my past experience at other organizations, that big question is like, how much anticipated time is this? How can I plan for shrinkage? You know, like all those things that I proactively came out with. I worked with our workforce management team and came up with a projection of what they can plan for with a spreadsheet, so they can easily go in and see how their time is being spent, that type of thing. And everyone's been all the managers have been pretty receptive to it. There's been maybe like one or two that are like, but I don't know how to track their time. And then I'm like, well, if they consistently track it in workforce management, if your numbers are going up, like your engagement, your team's adoption is going up, you can see that their meetings are working, they're spending their time wisely. But I would just say for others to get buy-in is prepare for the questions that managers are going to ask. And when you come in with those questions already answered before they have to ask them, the buy-in's a little bit easier, because they're like, oh, okay, you've got it, we've got it. And then also senior leadership. So they knew that the executive sponsor is their leader. So they knew that she was also advocating for it and supporting it. So that helped a little bit as well.
We have a question in the chat from Rahul, who says, do you evaluate the quality of article linkage? Are there specific metrics or criteria you follow to ensure effective and relevant linking?
For that one's always a little hard. I find it to do that on a larger scale, right? But we partner with our QA team, and they do look at links for all the tickets that they evaluate. They don't know the technical aspects, but they do click the link, make sure the link works. And then they do look at the theme of the article and the theme of the ticket to see a generalization. We also have a technical QA process. So our tech leads do also look at tickets for more of the technical aspect. And we also have a part of that. So they make sure, and then they rate the article. It doesn't take a score points away from the QA right, analysis, but it is a field that we do look at and evaluate. So we have data there. And then the other points I will add, so the QA team is one, but also just in terms of like our coaching, when they're looking at the tickets against the RQI, the linkages do come up, and they will notice that the link is off or not too, so that there is that kind of guardrail as well.
There are two things that we maybe hear about in that realm. One is the fact that you're already looking at top linked articles, right? The fact that that's kind of part of the conversation on a reasonably regular basis lets people know that that's important. And so there's some it's easy to understand why I need to do it accurately if people are talking about top linked articles, right? And the other thing that we find, especially because it's a manual process, and you're like, how do I do this on everything all the time? It turns out the other thing we find is that people who are good at linking accurately usually link accurately all the time. So the patterns for individuals are pretty easy to find, because people who aren't good at it are consistently not good at it.
Yeah, true.
So that is it's cold comfort for people who love the data. But sometimes we have to do sort of directionally appropriate as opposed to 100%. So
we do also have a dashboard, a review on our dashboard, where you can see all the tickets that have KCS activity, and that you can filter by role, and you can see individuals like KCS activity. So managers, I'm encouraging them is that, like, as you have conversations, like talk to your team. If you see they're not creating, talk to them and ask them, has there been opportunity to create? So I think managers are starting to incorporate those ticket reviews as well, where hopefully they're looking at that quality too. And I say hopefully, meaning that I haven't really been pushing for it. It's been encouraged, but it's not the need for the big ask. The big ask for them is just have conversations about KCS.
I don't see any more questions in the chat. If you have questions, you are also welcome to come off mute and ask them. And if not, Heather, we will say thank you so much for your time. It was lovely to see everybody. Thanks for being here with us today. We hope to see you again soon. We did record this. You'll get an email with the recording in a day or two. And take care. Have a great rest of your day.